Mediating Disputes Over Kids During COVID-19, part of the series Mediation Tips by Fran. That is a topic for today. Welcome to the Lawyers and Mediators International Show and Podcast by instantmediations.com, where we discuss law and conflict resolution topics to educate both professionals and everyday people. Catch regular episodes on YouTube, the Instant Mediations app, and anywhere you get your podcasts. Just remember, nothing in these episodes constitutes legal advice, so be sure to talk to a lawyer, as cases are fact-dependent. Hi everyone, Mac Pierre-Louis here, attorney, mediator, and arbitrator working throughout Florida and Texas, but now located next to my business partner in Warsaw, Poland.
Natalia Łowska-Czajka, happy and proud to be hosting Mac from Texas here in Warsaw, Poland. I am an advocate, mediator, and arbitrator.
And I'm Fran Brochstein. I'm an attorney and mediator in Texas.
All right, thanks guys. So we're back with another Mediation Tips by Fran episode. And this one, we wanted to talk about the trending topic that's been trending over the last 2 years, and that's been COVID-19, but specifically talking about children and how custody battles and school and all the issues between parents and over their children, these things have become a really big deal now in the age of the pandemic. So we're just going to be going through a few points that parents might find of interest, but we want to start off with this. Some time ago, a few days ago, out in Chicago, there was a judge who ordered a mother to get vaccinated for COVID-19 after she told him that she had not yet been vaccinated. The father was, but the mom had not. And the child was 11 years old. So the judge took it upon himself to order that the mother be vaccinated and that she would not be able to have custody or see her son until she got vaccinated. That ruling has since been vacated. The judge basically reversed himself, but it set a precedent because nothing like this had been happening before in this jurisdiction, and it became news all across the country and around the world. So we're starting off with that story to kind of give you the flavor of today's show, and that is COVID-19 has caused a lot of disruptions in our lives, including legal disruptions. So Natalia and Fran, if you can give your 2 cents into this about how we should be mediating disputes over kids in the time of the pandemic.
Fran, first you, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you so much. We are in uncharted times. None of us have ever lived through something like this before. The courts have not, the judges have not, the attorneys have not, and of course the parents and children have not. So I encourage people to be flexible and try to use common sense because apparently, excuse me, things are changing almost daily with COVID. I mean, a year ago, 18 months ago, we had never even heard of it. And now it's impacted all of our lives. I wouldn't have touched Zoom before COVID, and now I live on it. And really, the people that call me want to know what the judge would do. And I keep trying to explain to people, we don't know. What applies this week may not apply next week. And I think we need to all learn to be flexible and be prudent and be careful, but also try to minimize the stress on our children because the children absorb this stress. They sense it. I think children are very intuitive, much more intuitive than we think. And they are feeling a lot of stress about this COVID situation.
And following on that, thank you, Fran. I need to also emphasize that this stress in kids is also being so much imposed and actually accelerated by the fact that kids are returning to school in Poland. It is after many months of being absent from school, of seeing their school friends only on video, the same with teachers. And this actually has been reported so much on the media, but also from the parents around me, that kids actually just get stress symptoms like their headaches or belly aches, and they speak regularly on that. And from this perspective, I also need to emphasize that I've seen many medical reports from psychiatrists emphasizing that what our duty as parents, teachers, but also neighbors is really to be more understanding towards the kids in stress. We as adults have so many methods to cope with stress. We can go and exercise, we can talk to a friend. The kids don't know where to go when they are stressed. This led to so many cases I really am aware of, that kids end up having regular psychiatric treatments or psychological therapies. And this is because the kids don't know what to do. So if you compare that the kid having this enormous stress connected with distant learning and then back to school, and on top there might be family issues that are also putting their parents, the family, under huge distress, how can a kid cope with that? So really, there were a lot of cases of suicidal attempts, or at least kids speaking about it. And then those medical reports that I am evoking were all saying, every single adult, be aware of the well-being of the kid. Take care, pay attention, make it easier rather than more difficult for the kid. The teachers, not too much homework. The parents, speak to your kids. Make them understand their situation better. So please, COVID actually really has effect on all of us, but on the kids even more. They are given the information from mass media. They don't know what it exactly means. Nobody speaks with them. That might have affected the work of their parents, the family financial situation. And on top, they have their own little stresses. They are afraid to come back to school and talk to their friends, to the teachers. Just, we need to be the ones who will lead the kids through that and don't make their situation worse.
Yeah, and to add to that, we as attorneys, we deal with these problems all the time, right? So we would now want to turn and switch over to some suggestions we might have. But first, remember, just like the intro said, this is not legal advice. We also have to add, in the age of COVID-19, this is not medical advice. This is not teacher advice. This is not school advice. This is not any kind of advice. And so there's just a lot of controversy between parents over this topic. So we want to be careful in not giving anything too specific. But broadly, though, we would all agree that instead of bringing some situations and contests and disputes over children in the age of COVID to a judge, instead of doing that, it may oftentimes be better if you come and do a sit down, because with so many unknowns due to this disease and so many unknowns where things are rapidly developing and changing, this is really the time to not move so fast. Slow down, take a deep breath, and sit down and talk to the other parent. Okay. And the best way to do that a lot of times is to do it through a neutral third person, like a mediator. This is why we're quoting this on mediations.com. And so I say that let me say that in terms of this one example. Here's a question. Can you make the other parent get vaccinated? Whether or not that's a legal thing that a judge could order, because that is still in dispute in many jurisdictions, you as parents can get together and make common decisions over how you're going to take care of your children. Now, I get it. This might bring up hard feelings, and some parents may be very resistant to such a suggestion, but perhaps you can think outside the box and be creative with your mediator and propose other solutions that will have the same kind of intended effect of protecting the child. So Natalia, Fran, please give us more ideas on how parents might be able to make peace and resolve these issues without the hand rolling in court.
Well, as we were discussing before we started recording, a judge can order a parent to get vaccinated, but to my knowledge, no medical provider, no doctor is going to give a vaccine if they think it could harm their patient. So, because the doctor would not be part of the lawsuit. So, judges are not medical trained. I don't know if, and there could be some out there in the world, but most judges are law trained. They are not aware of medical information. And so they usually defer to the doctors because those are the appropriate people to make decisions. And many times, I know many people that cannot be vaccinated because of autoimmune diseases. And so I encourage people to be reasonable, think outside the box, and attempt to co parent and put their differences aside and do what is right for the children.
And this is a very important thing because the discrepancy can also arise between the parents if the kid is to be vaccinated. The common rule, according to the vaccine producers all over the world, but also according to the sanitary regimes, seems to be that the kids can be vaccinated when they are 12 and above. However, if one parent wishes the kid to be vaccinated and the other doesn't, what do we do? What do we do with such a dispute? Again, going to mediation enables to present arguments which are for or and against, and then reach a compromise in order to avoid putting the stress on the kid. Because please remember, when the kid is 12, they can have their own opinion too. And what if these opinions, that we have 3 opinions and they are totally different? Of course, the kid is not going to go to mediation. It is the decision of the parents. However, you need to listen to your kid and make the kid aware of all the aspects of this situation.
So, are there other solutions out there short of requiring the other parent to get vaccinated? Here's one that comes to my mind. Short of having your kid live in a bubble, how about agreeing to some kind of sanitation in each parent's home, or agreeing to some protocols that are going to be put in place, such as quarantining, okay, after a certain event, or having an agreed upon test, maybe a very one of those fast tests to give a quick response. There are other outside the box ways that parents can come together and propose of solutions to help protect their children. Can you guys think of any other proposals? Ideas?
One more thing is that the mediation itself can be absolutely sanitarily safe because you can do mediation online. And this is the most important thing to know. You don't even have to meet the other parent in person. You do it all online. And this is, I'm sorry to say, because this COVID time might be very hard on many people, but it brought some advancements. And one of them is absolutely the one that we got used to doing things online so much more than before. Then mediation is absolutely feasible. The agreement that you reach is going to be enforceable. And this is why we strongly encourage everybody, before going to court with any dispute in the COVID times, think twice, think 3 times, and go to mediation.
So, Fran, do you want to add to that before I move on?
Well, and also what most people don't realize is the courts all over the world were closed for 4 to 6 months. So the judges' dockets are backlogged terribly. And many of the judges are only doing Zoom hearings and trials. So therefore, mediation has moved up as even being more important, because if you have an issue, it may be months before you get in front of a judge. And that's where mediation is so much better. It's confidential, it's private, the parties control the process, and you can be very creative, which is one reason why I enjoy mediation versus litigation in Texas.
Okay, so now let's switch to things that are kind of hard and fast rules, things you can't make the other person do or lose out on. For example, at the beginning of the pandemic, a lot of parents were calling me and basically asking, hey, we're on lockdown and the other parent gets visitation or possession rights during this weekend or every other weekend, whatever, and depending on their order. So they're calling the attorney for legal advice on whether or not they have to let the child go for the visitation in the age of the pandemic. Now, we're in 2021 now, so a lot of things have changed back then. I think most courts have come down pretty consistently, but just wanted to go around robin and have you guys each talk about in your jurisdictions, what have you seen as the answer that's most commonly applied to this question of whether or not you as a parent can prevent the other parent from being able to get the child because maybe they were positive or there's a lockdown going on. What are your thoughts?
So there was so much fuss about it, and I had an impression that a lot of parents, especially mothers, actually were so happy that the pandemic broke up because they thought it immediately meant they don't have to handle the kids over to their dads. And they were looking for so many different reasons not to do that. Oh, because he still goes to work, he is not quarantining, he is not applying social distancing, he's not washing his hands. By the way, how can you know that if you are not with him anymore? But so many different things. So the Ministry of Justice in Poland issued a recommendation on the website saying the fact that we're all in lockdown does not suspend court orders. Because please remember, the contacts you already have set up might be subject to further enforcement. And lockdown was not a cause for stopping the enforcement of contacts. Of course, again, it has to be under common sense. We need to agree on just basic rules that ensure safety. But please be sure that if the lockdown happens or if it doesn't, the pandemic is not a reason to stop the other parent from visiting the kid or even taking the kid somewhere as according to the vacation or holiday plan that was set up.
Right.
And the same in Texas. The Texas Supreme Court at the very beginning of COVID said visitation continues like usual. Again, I encourage people to use common sense. If one parent was in a high risk job, such as a nurse that worked in a COVID ward, then maybe FaceTime or Zoom is appropriate. Even if they can't see the parent, I really encourage parents to let the child have access to the other parent using social media. I actually many years ago did a divorce where dad traveled all over the world. Mom could not do math, and dad did math homework with the child via FaceTime Monday through Thursday. And it worked for mom, it worked for dad, and it worked for the kid. So even during the worst times of COVID, there's no excuse for a child not to be able to see the other parent that is not in possession of the child via texting, phone, FaceTime, Zoom, whatever it is.
Yeah, and so to wrap up, I do have, some positive experiences where a lot of parents have used the common sense we're talking about today. I know of a lot of parents who have, not sunk down to the negativity, but started approaching things a little differently and started using technology. We all love technology. And if people fail to imagine, what's possible out there, sure, they might think to themselves, okay, you must be here at 6 p.m. or you cannot be here at 6 p.m. How about we think of things differently? I just think that if you don't have the proposals, the ideas of what you could do, and go to a mediator to help you think outside the box and other solutions. All right, ladies, last word.
For example, how the COVID can change the contacts is the moment where you possibly can contract this virus is the moment of exchange. The more the exchange is, the more risk there is going something to happen. Think about grouping those contacts. So instead of having Tuesdays and Fridays, think about those two being together, linked with the weekend, so that there isn't not that exposure to the virus. But this is just one of the many ideas that can come to your head. And one last point before we close up, sanitation. Can you demand that the sanitation is being imposed on other parents the way you see it? Again, mediation can be a good solution to discuss what is reasonable, what is unreasonable, how to use the common sense. Go to mediation if you have any issues. It's so easy. You just propose it to the other parent. If he agrees, go online and you have someone who will help you find the proper solution.
Yeah, Fran, last word to you.
Well, I don't like micromanaging parents. I think that parents need, a lot of people do try to micromanage the other parent. It just doesn't work long term. Also, even as a parent, we all need a break. And sometimes it's great to, I hate to say it, I did it when I was divorced. Sometimes it's great to send the kids over to the other parent's house so you can just catch up on laundry and take a nap. So I really encourage people during these difficult, uncharted times to learn to be more flexible and be understanding and always put the kids' interests first. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much.
All right, Mac Pilwy signing off.
Natalia Łoskoczajka. See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.